still a great deal of anxiety among Americans. The numbers show that we are moving in the right direction.
A 30-minute sexual assault.
A Pennsylvania woman died.
There are a lot of psychopaths in the world.
Kill a man walking by. The killing. Fire guns from helicopters. A bullet in his neck.
10,000 wounded.
Soldiers are firing randomly. Cause a sense of terror.
After the man was stabbed, he later died.
This is a picture of the alleged rape still up on the website.
The rape of a teenage girl.
An arsenal of weapons.
Police are on the scene of an apparent murder-suicide.
A murder-suicide tonight. Take a look at some video we shot just moments ago.
Killing.
Sexual assault.
Terror.
Rape.
Psychopath.
A teacher in Greece accused of trying to meet up with a 14-year-old girl for sex.
A mother of two stabbed to death. A young mother just days from giving birth to her second child. Found burned to death in her own home.
Plotting to kill his wife, Lynette, and 18-year-old daughter, Kayleen.
The brutal death of a 24-year-old beautiful nursing student. Take us through this terrible story from the beginning.
You know about the tragedy, of course, in the Colorado movie theater last weekend. Well, the accused shooter is conducting such antics in the courtroom that they're leading many to believe that his legal team will plead insanity for his defense. Joining us now on the Savage Nation is Paul Samico with the Washington Times. Paul, welcome to the Savage Nation.
I really appreciate you having me on today. Looking forward to being able to talk with you here a little bit.
What do you think his chances are that he'll get off on an insanity defense plea?
The words that you use to get off are exactly the concern of everybody, and I'll offer statistically, just to begin, this individual has committed these crimes. This is not going to be about who did it. We are going to find very easily that a court of law will find that this was the shooter, he was the killer, 12 people died, 58 people were injured. There's no question who pulled the trigger. The only possibility for this guy was James Holmes to get off, as you say, is by raising a defense of insanity. Now, statistically, 3% nationwide, 3% of people, defendants, who claim insanity win with that defense. So before we even get to the state of Colorado, where it's even more difficult, probably it's even less than 3%, before we even get there, the likelihood of this individual getting off is extremely small. I want to provide just a little bit of background so that you have an understanding here of really what is involved when someone comes up before court and says, I'm not responsible because of my mental condition. We call that insanity. Way back in 1843 in England, there was some guy, schizophrenic, who thought he was being persecuted, and he killed somebody and then claimed that he was insane at the time. The guy's name was MacNaughton. Now, Mr. MacNaughton won with that defense. He was not convicted of the killing that he perpetrated. After that, the House of Commons in England was very, very upset and wanted standards set so that someone claiming insanity couldn't just walk into the court and say, I'm not responsible, I wasn't in my right mind. And out of that beginning, there developed what has come to be known as the MacNaughton Rule.
Well, what is that?
The slim down of it is basically, if you don't know the difference between right and wrong, then it's acceptable to say that you are insane. Now, the proof of that is psychiatric testimony. Doctors who have examined you and can come to court and say, yeah, this cowboy had no clue in the world what he was doing. He didn't know right from wrong. Those are the key words from the MacNaughton test. And that has carried into the United States and has always been part of our criminal justice culture when someone claims insanity. Colorado has an additional element that must be proven. Many, many states just simply use that test. But Colorado has one more that makes it even more difficult for individuals to come across in those courtrooms and say they were insane and they get off, as the expression goes, on the insanity defense. The second type of claim that must be proven by an insane defendant is that he was suffering from a genuine mental illness at the time of the crime. It can't be something that was drug-induced, as an example. In other words, if we use the drug, say, phencyclidine, PCP, this drug is known to affect our brains chemically, and clearly someone under the strong influence of PCP could be said to be insane because they really would not know right from wrong. But that's not going to be a basis to claim genuine mental illness. So when we get all of this through the funnel, Mr. Holmes' defense has got an extraordinary uphill battle here. They've got to show he was suffering from a mental illness that was genuine and that he didn't know right from wrong at the time. With everything that we've seen in the news already, this was a premeditated series of killings that he perpetrated in that movie theater. He planned it. I just don't see any possibility at all that this guy is going to walk on an insanity defense. It's just not going to happen.
And what's going to happen with the civil suit, in your opinion?
Well, this is again, a completely different kind of a concept. In the criminal world, Michael, we have guilty and innocent, the prosecution, which is the state, and the defendant, who is on trial for a crime allegedly committed by him. And the burden of proof in the criminal venue is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a pretty high standard that the prosecutor or the state has to have evidence that meets to find a defendant guilty. Now we go to civil. It's a different standard. This is about money. And in civil claims, absenting our issues of divorce and child custody, domestic relations, they're about money. People making a claim against another person or corporation versus corporation, business versus business, claiming something happened and the other one owes me money. More often than not, it is a claim of negligence. We can make an analogy here to an automobile collision. I was stopped at a red light and you hit me from behind. As a result of your not paying attention, you were negligent. And so as a result of that type of a case, I have a neck injury and I had to go to the doctor and I had to miss 2 weeks of my job and I lost wages. So I'm looking for money to compensate me for all of these types of things. Well, the civil case that has already been filed here in this movie theater incident was being filed by a guy by the name of Torrance Brown. And he has some very interesting legal theories. He has actually sued the movie theater, he sued James Holmes' doctors, and he sued the film studio. So let me just run down these three real quick and offer some thoughts on why I don't believe Mr. Brown is going to be in a position to recover any money at all.
Why not?
The first part of a negligence claim is that I was injured. Well, Mr. Brown was not injured. Now, his best friend was killed. That's very upsetting. But negligence law requires some kind of a physical injury. We can't just make a claim for emotional distress and psychiatric or psychological injury because we witnessed something. Most states don't allow that, and I believe Colorado is the same. So when we get to the people or the entities that he sued, let's start with the doctors. He's claiming that the doctors should have monitored the medication that Holmes was on, and they should have foreseen that Holmes' violent tendencies were such that if he was off the medications, he was going to do something like this. That claim has absolutely zero chance of going anywhere. The lawyers for the doctors are going to come in and ask to have their clients' doctors released from the case, dismissed, and they will win. There's no foreseeability issue here. That's really, really stretching it. They've also, Mr. Brown has also sued the film studio on the theory that the Dark Knight movies were a blueprint for the crime that James Holmes committed. Again, this is a real far stretch. It's never going to fly. We have exposure in our world to all sorts of things that doesn't motivate us if we are, the average kind of person walking around to commit crimes because we see crimes being committed. We can read about crimes in the newspaper. We can see them in the movies. We can see it on TV. We can read magazines. This theory has never worked, and it's not going to work. The only possibility here is the claim against the movie theater, where Mr. Brown is claiming that the theater was negligent because they did not have alarms on the emergency doors. Now, Brown claims that this this lack of alarm on the emergency doors, allowed Holmes to exit the theater after purchasing his ticket and come back in with his cache of weapons. I think that's a real stretch. I don't know that it's accurate. I don't know that you're going to have a situation where you're going to be, if you're a movie theater, that you have an obligation to have an alarm on your emergency doors or your exit doors. I just don't know that that's the standard in a movie theater, and certainly to anticipate that something like this would happen, that somebody could go back out and bring in guns, and that's the reason you should have your doors alarmed. Again, a very, 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 very big stretch here for Mr. Brown. I don't see this gentleman winning his lawsuit. When we get to the victims and the families of the victims, it's going to be a very interesting view from the legal community standpoint to see where and how they might successfully seek compensation and from whom. I still haven't yet figured out where this is going to happen. The movie theater is an interesting argument about the alarms on the doors, but I just don't know that that's going to fly.
What kind of timeline are we looking at?
Well, the process in Colorado, as I understand it, and again, I'm an attorney in the Washington, D.C. area. My license is in Virginia and in Maryland. I don't practice law in Colorado, never have. Been there, very beautiful state. But my understanding that relatively soon we're going to see the arraignment. At the arraignment, Mr. Holmes' counsel will enter a plea for him. If they enter a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity, immediately the court is going to order psychiatric testing. And the purpose of the testing is not to determine if he was insane. The purpose of the testing by psychiatrists will be to determine if Mr. Holmes is competent to stand trial, if he can participate in his own defense. And assuming that he can, then they will go forward to trial. Now, we have the constitutional requirement of a speedy trial, and in most places around the United States, my understanding is that's usually about 6 months. So I would imagine that before the end of this calendar year, we are going to see a trial. If it is that initially we can learn that Mr. Holmes is competent to stand trial, that is, that he can participate in his own defense. Of course, if it's determined that he cannot participate in his own defense, then it might just hang there and he would be bound over to some psychiatric facility or a hospital until such time as he was able to help formulate a defense and be a part of in defending himself, as it were. So that could go on and on and on. I mean, the example that we have certainly is, the Arizona situation about a year or two ago, whatever it was, with Gabby Giffords and the other people in that Arizona shopping center where the defendant was bound over for a long time until they could determine that he was similarly able to participate in his defense. So this case could go on and on and on. We just have to wait and see what happens at the arraignment.
Where can we read more?
Thank you so much for asking. Yeah, my personal website, I'll spell this for you slowly, is samicolaw.com, and I have a great deal of information about all of these things, excerpts from my own segment on a radio show that I'm involved in here every week. Samico Law is SAMAKOWLAW, samicolaw.com. So visitors to that website can listen to clips of when I'm on the radio here locally. There's all kinds of other good, fun stuff that's useful for lots of different purposes.
Paul Samico, thanks for being with us on the Savage Nation.
It was certainly a pleasure being with you today, Michael. Good luck to you, and you know what you're doing. You're doing a great job.
This is the Savage Nation.
Savage.